see about the newer approaches can be done in the treatment of Alzheimer's disease, like other options apart from cholinergic activators and NMDA receptor antagonists. What other options are can be done available for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease? Okay, so again we'll see this diagram, and we'll see where what all other options can be made available, like this beta secretase. Beta secretase is the main villain that mainly causes the increase in the length of this beta amyloid. So first option is like we can produce some beta secretase inhibitors, the drugs that can inhibit this enzyme beta secretase, isn't it? So the first approach can be beta secretase inhibitors. Next, we can use a few drugs that can reduce the gamma secretase activity. Like you have seen previously, some kind of mutation happens, because of which mutated form of gamma secretase are being produced. So by altering the activity, by inhibiting or by modulating the gamma secretase activity, we can inhibit the formation of the beta amyloids, and ultimately we can treat Alzheimer's disease. Okay, so the second approach is gamma secretase inhibitors and modulators. And modulators. Apart from this, apart from overactivity of beta secretase and gamma secretase, here what happens, this alpha secretase is not at all acting over here, isn't it? So we require few drugs that causes activation of alpha secretase. So our third option can be alpha secretase activators. Apart from this, we can also, one of the option can be we can cause removal of this plaques, whatever senile plaques, whatever beta amyloid plaques have been accumulated, we can attempt in removal of these plaques. So we require drugs that promotes beta amyloid clearing. So drugs promoting beta amyloid clearance, it is also a better option, isn't it? Next approach can be the drugs that are targeting the tau protein. Because of tau protein, this cytoskeleton will be inhibited, and ultimately neurofibrillary tangles are being formed. So by increasing the stability of tau protein, we can also, in somewhat in we can attempt in inhibiting the neurodegeneration. So drugs to target tau protein, also a good option. Apart from this, what happens over here, as you have seen in this case, there is a degeneration of the neuron, which are basically cholinergic neurons, and we are attempting activation by inhibiting the enzyme that causes its metabolism. Apart from this, whatever neurons are being degenerated, we can reactivate them by supplying some kind of protein. So to them we call it as neurotrophins, that produces neurogenesis. Neurotrophins, which will cause reactivation of the cholinergic neurons which are being degenerated. Next is, apart from this, there is an evidence that even cholesterol lowering drugs can also be used for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. Cholesterol lowering drugs. Apart from this, metal chelators have also been shown some kind of evidence in reducing the Alzheimer's disease. metal chelators. So these all are the newer approaches that can be used for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. See, these all drugs are still under studies, still clinical trials and researches are been going on for these disease for these drugs for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. So this is not a foolproof treatment. It is not being used now, but it just still, research is been going on that okay, these classes of drugs can also be used for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. So we'll see about these all newer approaches one by one, starting from the beta secretase activators. So we'll start our discussion with the first one, that is beta secretase inhibitors. Okay, so as I have told you, beta secretase is the main villain that is forming a beta amyloid, and it initiates the Alzheimer's disease progress. Now we need a drug that will inhibit beta secretase enzyme, which is a very challenging thing. It is very challenging thing because first of all, beta secretase, it is an enzyme which have got many domains, for substrate binding. Apart from this, any drug which is showing any positive aspect of inhibiting of beta secretase means, apart from inhibition of beta secretase, it should also have the ability to cross the blood brain barrier. So any drug which is proving that it is having the ability to inhibit beta secretase, so along with that property, it should have one more important property, that is it should have the ability to cross the blood brain barrier. And obviously after crossing the blood brain barrier only, it will move inside the central nervous system, and this beta secretase is which is present inside the central nervous system, after crossing it only, it can inhibit the beta secretase. So apart from means any drug which is saying that it can be producing beta secretase inhibitors, so it should have two properties. One property is first of all inhibiting the beta secretase, and second property is it should cross the blood brain barrier. So we have got two important drugs coming in this class. Those are pioglitazone and rosiglitazone. Okay, have you heard these two drugs before? Yes, just stress in your mind. I believe you people are not patients of Alzheimer's disease, so you can recall you have studied these two drugs used in the treatment of diabetes mellitus, isn't it? Yes, these are hypoglycemic agent, or you can say anti-diabetic drug. So these two drugs, apart from treating diabetes mellitus, can also be used for treating Alzheimer's disease, since these two drugs have got the ability to inhibit beta secretase. And how they are inhibiting the beta secretase? Yes, the same mechanism, that is they mainly act by stimulating the nuclear peroxismal proliferator activator receptor gamma. Okay. Peroxismal peroxisome proliferator activated receptor gamma, PPAR gamma. So these agents mainly act by stimulating this receptor. So activation of these receptor can suppress the expression of the beta secretase, and by this it can be used in the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. So this is about the beta secretase inhibitor. Now we'll see the second class. So our second class of drug is gamma secretase inhibitors and modulators. Gamma secretase inhibitors and modulators. Now, what does gamma secretase do? As you can see over here, gamma secretase will cleave this APP protein, or you can say intramembranous cleavage of the APP protein is done by gamma secretase. Some mutation in the gamma secretase will contribute in 40 to 42 amino acid long beta amyloid formation, beta amyloid formation. So what we can do, many gamma secretase inhibitors have reached the clinical testing, and the two important gamma secretase inhibitors which have been studied so far are semaglutide and begacistate. Semaglutide and begacistate. So with the help of these two drugs, we can avoid, what we can avoid, 40 to 42 amino acid long beta amyloid. And this 42 amino acid long beta amyloid is ultimately, or you can say very sure and short, it may lead to the production of Alzheimer's disease. So by inhibiting this much long beta amyloid can be done by gamma secretase inhibitors, and thereby it can attempt in treating Alzheimer's disease. So this is about the second class. The third class is our alpha secretase activators. So next we'll see about alpha secretase activators. We have a saying that evil happens because not only because of the bad things done by bad people, but also because of silence of good people. So same things applies over here. Bad peoples are your gamma secretase and mutated form beta secretase and mutated form of gamma secretase, and the good people is your alpha secretase, which is remaining silent. So when we activate the alpha secretase, we can ultimately treat the Alzheimer's disease, because alpha secretase will produce means it will cleave the APP protein such that it can easily get digested by protease enzyme. So by activating alpha secretase, we can inhibit this problem of Alzheimer's disease. So we have got various drugs that can cause activation of alpha secretase, like agonist, few drugs which are agonist of muscarinic, glutamate and serotonin receptor. Okay, R goes for receptors. The drugs which are muscarinic, glutamate and serotonin receptors can cause alpha secretase activation. Apart from these, other agents such as estrogens, then your testosterones, and even kinase C activators. So these all agents can cause alpha secretase activation, and these drugs have been tested in clinical trials, but as such no evidence supports their use in Alzheimer's disease yet. So this is about the alpha secretase activators. So after alpha secretase activators, our fourth option is drugs promoting beta amyloid clearance. Okay. Fourth option is drugs promoting beta amyloid clearance. So this thing can be achieved by some immunological method. So basically we have got three types of immunizations by which we can promote beta amyloid clearance. The first method is by solubilization by antibody binding to the beta amyloid. Solubilization by the antibody which are binding to beta amyloids. Okay, so if you people remember, these beta amyloid plaques, they get incorporated in between these neurons and they will start immunological reaction, means they will attract antibody and they lead to inflammatory reactions. So what we are doing, we are using means whatever antibodies are there, we are increasing the number of antibodies, and what these antibodies are doing, apart from producing inflammation, they are producing solubilization, they are solubilizing this beta amyloid plaques. This is one of the method by which we can clear the level of beta amyloids. Second method is again, which is also a immunological method, that is phagocytosis of the opsonized beta amyloid. Phagocytosis of opsonized beta amyloids. So what happens here, there is mainly the role of complement system, means we are activating the complement system. Suppose this is your beta amyloid plaque. So when we activate this complement system, what will happen, one of the protein of the complement system, it will come and it will get stick to this amyloid plaque, and this protein, this complement protein, it is just like a sweet dish for phagocytes, means the phagocytes will love eating this opsonin. Okay, this opsonin is nothing but it is a protein of the complement system, and this one of the protein of the complement system will come and it will attach to the beta amyloid plaque, and it is just like a sweet dish for your phagocytes. Okay, and what these phagocytes will do, phagocytes are nothing but these are big eaters, and they will eat up this, means because they want to eat up this opsonin, they will eat up the entire beta amyloid, and thereby we can promote the beta amyloid clearance. So this is also one of the approach by which we can do this thing. And lastly, the last option by which we can promote the clearance of the beta amyloid is by extraction it from the brain by plasma antibodies, that is extraction of beta amyloid from brain by the help of plasma antibodies, by plasma antibodies. Okay, so these are the three approaches by which we can promote beta amyloid clearance. So after this, our fifth option is drugs targeting tau proteins. The fifth option can be drugs targeting tau proteins. So basically what happens over here, these tau proteins, these are the proteins which are present inside the neurons, and their main role is they causes stabilization of the microtubules. So what happens here, basically there will be increased phosphorylation of the tau proteins, and because of this increased phosphorylation, they are unable to stabilize, or you can say they are unable to hold together the microtubules. And what happens after phosphorylation, they will leave the microtubule and they themselves will aggregate, and as a result of which neurofibrillary tangles are being formed. So what kind of approaches can we do, what kind of drug we require, and what are our main ambition with this tau protein is, first of all, the first thing we can do is we can reduce the phosphorylation. So we require drugs that can reduce the phosphorylation of the tau protein. Okay, so first of all we require modulation of the tau phosphorylation. First thing that we can do is modulation. See, phosphorylation is required but not too much phosphorylation, so we don't require inhibition, but we require just modulation. So modulation of tau phosphorylation, of tau phosphorylation with which can be done with some inhibitors of tau phosphorylating kinase. Can be done by inhibitors of phosphorylating kinase. Okay, so one thing we require from these drugs are they should modulate the tau phosphorylation, and the second thing we require is to inhibit the aggregation of the tau protein, so that tau protein should not aggregate, they should remain in their place, and they should perform the stabilization of the microtubules. They should hold the microtubule together in their place, so that there won't be any neurofibrillary tangles formation. So the second expectation from these drugs are to inhibit the aggregation of these tau. Second is inhibit tau aggregation. So these are the two expectation which we expect from the drugs that target the tau proteins. Now we have got mainly in at present two drugs are being studied which can achieve these things. The first drug is lithium and the second drug is valproate. Yes, these are the drugs which are used for psychotics also and for epilepsy also. So these drugs are set to produce these actions. These agents reduces the tau phosphorylation and prevent or reverse the aspects of the tauopathy in the animal models also. So still research has been going on in human beings also. So this is about the drugs targeting the tau protein. So after drug targeting tau protein, our next option is neurotrophins. Sixth one is neurotrophins. Okay, so there is a thing known as neurogenesis. Yes, genesis means synthesis of neurons. It is said that neurogenesis can occur in adult brain and it mainly occurs in response to any damage. Suppose if there is any damage to the neurons, neurogenesis may occur. And what happens in Alzheimer's disease? Yes, there is a degeneration of neuron. There are loss of neuron, particularly cholinergic neurons. Cholinergic neurons are being damaged, or you can say degenerated. Next, it is said that the survival and the growth of cholinergic neurons mainly occur with the help of a substance known as nerve growth factor as such. So what happens in Alzheimer's disease, there should be a balance between cholinergic neuron damage and the level of nerve growth factor, so that both things should be maintained in balance. But what happens in Alzheimer's disease, the level of the nerve growth factor is been reduced, and because of which there will be increased damage of the cholinergic neurons as such. So what can we do for inhibiting this in this imbalance? We should supply more amount of nerve growth factor. So if we are supplying more amount of nerve growth factor, it will increase the survival and neurogenesis, means it will increase the survival and growth or outgrowth of this, or you can say fibers outgrowth of the cholinergic neurons. So targeted delivery of the nerve growth factor to the basal forebrain cholinergic neurons prevented their inhibition. It stimulated synaptic cholinergic functions and promoted cognitive improvement in animals as such. Studies in human patients with Alzheimer's disease were initially based on intracerebroventricular infusion of the nerve growth factor. So the results were positive results on the cognition and physiological measurements of the brain functioning were being seen, but along with that some adverse effects like pain and weight loss were being seen. So we can say that a positive approach can be done with the help of supplying the nerve growth factor. Okay, next to neurotrophins, the last two classes remaining are cholesterol lowering drugs and metal chelators, which we'll see now. The sixth option is cholesterol lowering drugs. As such, it is said that there are some evidence that links the cholesterol concentration is linked with Alzheimer's disease. Even there is a relation between cholesterol and APP metabolism. APP metabolism. Okay, so here basically there is a role of your ApoE4 protein. Yes, if you remember what is the role of ApoE4 protein, it is mainly responsible for aggregation of the beta amyloid and ultimately leading to amyloid plaque formation. Okay, so this is the main role. This is the main pathophysiological role, you can say. Okay, this is the pathophysiological role. Pathophysiological role or pathophysiological action of this ApoE4 protein is it causes aggregation of beta amyloid. There might be any physiological role also. Physiological role. So the physiological role or physiological action of ApoE4 protein in our central nervous system is it is mainly responsible for distribution of cholesterol among the neurons. Distribution of cholesterol among neurons as such. And these are mainly present in your lipoprotein. It is a component of lipoprotein like your LDL, HDL, VLDL, all these lipoproteins. There is a presence of this ApoE4 protein as such, and its main role is it causes distribution of the cholesterol among the neurons. This is the physiological role. And pathophysiological role, that is when it comes to Alzheimer's disease, when there is any increased number of this ApoE4 protein, it causes aggregation of beta amyloid. So as you know, this what happens when there is increased level of ApoE4, it leads to sporadic form of Alzheimer's disease, or you can say a late onset of Alzheimer's disease. So it is said that ApoE4 is associated with a slight increase of the serum cholesterol and might have a direct role in the deposition of the amyloid aggregation, isn't it? Means whenever there is an increased level of ApoE4 protein, okay, it causes aggregation of beta amyloid, but at the same time there will be increased level of LDL, HDL and VLDL as well. Okay, it causes both. Normally it is responsible for LDL, HDL and VLDL, but increased amount of ApoE4 causes increased number of these lipoprotein plus aggregation of beta amyloid. So what can we do? We can by reducing this level of LDL, HDL, VLDL, we can attempt in switching the amidogenic pathway into a non-amidogenic pathway in response to the cholesterol reduction. But anyway, the exact mechanism by which cholesterol affects the beta amyloid production is not been known as such. So this is about the cholesterol lowering drugs, but it is saying that by reducing the level of cholesterol, we can attempt in reducing the aggregation of beta amyloid, because as such the deposition of cholesterol or aggregation of beta amyloid, for both these things ApoE4 is the responsible thing. So by reducing this thing, we can also reduce the aggregation of beta amyloid. So we are just comparing. There is an evidence that there may be some kind of correlation. If we are reducing this thing, we can reduce the aggregates also. So this was regarding the cholesterol lowering drugs. Next we'll see to our last approach, that is your metal chelates. Metal chelators. So regarding metal chelators, see, metal ions may have a role in the pathogenesis of your Alzheimer's disease. It is said that your beta amyloid plaques may act as a metalloprotein. Suppose this is your beta amyloid plaque. This is your beta amyloid plaque. So it is acting as a metalloprotein. and it is having a very high affinity for metals like your copper ion and zinc ion, which might mediate its aggregation and toxicity. In particular, metal binding to the beta amyloid may cause the production of some highly reactive oxygen species. Reactive oxygen species. Okay, so here comes the problem. See, basically it have got high affinity for copper and zinc ion metal ion, and when these copper or zinc metal ion is approaching or binding to these metalloprotein, that is beta amyloid plaque, it leads to the production of a reactive oxygen species. And you might be knowing what happens when there is release of reactive oxygen species. It is ultimately causing damage to the neurons, or you can say neurodegeneration happens. It causes damage of the neurons. So, and apart from this, when you take a person of Alzheimer's disease, they have got increased concentration of this copper and zinc ion in their neocortex. Okay, increased level of copper as well as zinc ion is present in the neocortex in the patient suffering from this Alzheimer's disease. So there will be increased interaction, means increased level of these two metal ion, means increased amount will get attracted to the beta amyloid plaque, because of which increased amount of reactive oxygen species are being produced, and these reactive oxygen species will produce degeneration or damage to the neurons. So what approach can be done is, there is a drug known as cleoquinol. Okay, so what this drug is doing, it is a hydrophobic copper and zinc chelator. So we are chelating, we are complexing, we are chelating these metal ions. So it is a kind of hydrophobic chelator for both copper ion as well as for your zinc ion. So basically what we are doing, we are chelating, we are complexing, we are trapping these metal ions so that they does not approach to the metalloprotein, your beta amyloid, and because of which there won't be any production of reactive oxygen species, and therefore neurodegeneration can be inhibited. So, and apart from this, one more important point regarding this cleoquinol is it can freely cross the blood brain barrier. Okay, now this cleoquinol, it was previously used as an anti-amoebic agent, but its use or its marketing was been withdrawn in 1970s, because it produces some kind of adverse effects such as myeloneuropathy. It was producing myeloneuropathy. But anyhow, now it is said that when we are using this cleoquinone along with vitamin B12, this myeloneuropathy problem can be inhibited. So this is regarding metallochelates, and these are regarding the newer approaches that can be done for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. Hope you find this video helpful. Thank you.